I welcome you all, basketball degenerates, to another episode of the Pass First, Shoot Later podcast brought to you by the OC Basketball League. I'm your host, Zico Pepic, and this week we got a little role reversal. Mike's out of town, and Omar, Big O, is back. What's up, Omar?
I'm back. What's up, Zico?
Omar, how's the trip, bud?
It was good. It was good. It was long, but it was good. Got to take care of business and see family. But yeah, sucks. Couldn't get on the podcast, even though I did wake up really early every time trying to connect. But it is what it is. I'm back to the grind, and back to some exciting basketball news.
Well, before we go into that, I do want to point out, happy birthday to your son.
I appreciate it.
Turned one while you're over there. I know that's an exciting time. I think that was pretty awesome that he was able to celebrate that with his family. So happy birthday to him. I did get to see him this weekend, and he's pretty jet lagged himself and tired, but it
Oh
was
yeah,
awesome.
he
Happy for your whole family.
Appreciate it. Yeah, no, he got to spend time with his with my wife's family and his some of his cousins out there. We did a nice little birthday for him, and yeah, definitely jet lag. He's still struggling with it till this day. Yeah, it was fun for him. He brought the life of the party. He was the life of the party. Brought the energy to the house over there, and he was the center of attention. So it felt good because people can take care of him. We got a little break. Now we're back to just the two of us.
Well, it's good to have you back. There was only so much I could take of hater Mike hating on Kobe, and no one there to help me defend, the one of the goats. So at least you're back now. We can make this a special Kobe podcast.
I mean, we can definitely Mike has some haterism to him, and I don't know where that stems from, and he won't admit it. One thing I do know, there's a lot of Kobe haters that are delusional, and Mike's one of them. So definitely, it doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make one bit of sense. But Kobe is Kobe, and he's still considered one of the greats. And for him not to be in the top 10, I think he's in a very few people's not top tens, and Mike's one of them for sure.
So we were talking about this a little off air, and right now we're in the middle of the play-in games. And the play-in games are something new, just like we had the in-season tournament this year for the first time. The play-in games are, I think this is the third season with them, correct?
Yes, I think wasn't the first I could be wrong, but wasn't the first play-in thing when LeBron won in 2020 in the
Yeah,
bubble?
something like that. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, he was completely
Coincident,
against it, but
yeah, coincidentally, LeBron is the first to accomplish everything new that's been established
yeah,
since he's played.
he was completely against it to start, and then when he realized he was outside the playoffs looking in, then he was excited to have that opportunity and capitalize on it. So I just think it's really interesting that Kobe could be penalized so much by Mike for being Kobe, yet someone can sneak in as the 10th seed and get into the playoffs and will be applauded for it in some manner.
Well, we know for a fact that no matter at what part of his career, LeBron's teams will never be less than a 10 seed. Even at this age and even at this part of his career, he won't be a bottom dweller. You know what I'm saying? So it's interesting. Mike won't admit it. There's a lot of other people that won't admit it, but LeBron has taken advantage of that, and we're seeing it year after year after year. Which for a guy at this point of his career, let's be honest, he's 40 years old. If he just has to play enough and his team has to stay healthy just to be the 10 seed, and then turn it up come playoff time, you know, um, I wouldn't be mad about it too. But yeah, Mike has to accept the fact that it's to LeBron's advantage and his legacy for sure.
He will never accept that fact. at least from the standpoint of the Kobe angle regarding it. But regardless of that, we are Laker fans, and we are happy to see our Lakers advance. So we'll start with that. They did win a big game, honestly, against New Orleans. Zion played amazing that game. I was actually really impressed with him. I've been I haven't been the biggest fan of Zion, but I will give him, his flowers. He played very well in that game. Monster game. I think he had like 40 points. Played extremely physical, played the way he's supposed to play. He went at LeBron, he went at late AD, he went at Rui, he went at anybody they threw at him. And stepped up big time, but unfortunately his teammates didn't. So let's talk about that game a bit.
Yeah, I mean that was a huge game for the Lakers. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, the Pelicans, even though they were do a plane and a plane, but technically they were a 7 seed, right? So they were under the old rules a playoff team.
Right.
Um, I know a lot of people talk about, well, they're a 7 seed, but I'm a firm believer it doesn't matter. Come playoff time, it's a whole new season, so it doesn't matter you know, where you land in the seedings. Yes, there's home court advantage, and everybody talks about that, but at the end of the day, playoffs is a whole new season. Preparations are different, and you know, injuries play a factor of where you're at come playoff time. But definitely they're a young team, well coached. So for the Lakers to pull off that win, that was huge. I would have liked them to see the Lakers actually take an L to play the Thunder in the first round versus Denver. But neither one of them is going to be an easy matchup for the Lakers. You got a young Thunder team that, we talked about it in an earlier podcast. A lot of people thought I was crazy, but they finished as the 1 seed, in the West. And Denver, obviously, LeBron's legacy really will be cemented even further if he gets to upset Denver after the sweep from last year.
You know, regardless of seeding, it's like you said, playoffs are the playoffs. Um, Jimmy Bucket, Jimmy Buckets handles that the best. We saw that last season, him coming in 8th seed, beating Milwaukee. So this is an opportunity for LeBron, like you said, to cement himself if he really wants to. I think it's tough for them to beat Denver, but if they were going to win a title, they're going to have to go through Denver in the West anyway. And I would kind of prefer it that they do it in the first round, just because the Lakers won't be as tired if it's in the semifinals. Denver is a younger team in terms of star power. Jokic and Jamal Murray are in the younger phases of their career. LeBron isn't. LeBron's older. So if somehow the Lakers are to get to the finals, like my brother predicted in the last episode, you're going to have to go through Denver anyway. Now is the perfect time to do it. If they can come out and play elite basketball, they have a chance to do it. It's not impossible. With LeBron on the team, they do have a chance to do it. But to me, the key for them is, will the rest of the team step up? D'Lo had a great game against New Orleans. He had a phenomenal game, honestly. If he comes out there and Rui can come out there and they play team ball and Austin Reeves plays to what he's been capable of, they have a chance. So if you asked me to bet against them, I'd hate to bet against the Lakers just because that's my team. But I probably wouldn't take a bet just because Denver's really good. I don't think they're going to go back to back, but they're still one of the best, if not the best team in the league. So
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's definitely a better matchup early. Like you said, early in the playoffs. But Denver is still, the proven team to beat in the West come playoffs, and so it's going to be an interesting first round for them. But you know, um,
I will say this, Omar. One of the things I'm a little concerned about with the Lakers, and it was visible in this last game. LeBron played 40 minutes. Anthony Davis played 40 minutes. Austin Reeves and D'Lo played 36 minutes. Off the bench, Torian Prince played 22. Gabe Vincent played 17. We're not getting that much off the bench right now. Like Gabe Vincent's actually playing pretty well right now, which I'm happy with. Spencer Dinwiddie has played 5 minutes, was horrible in those 5 minutes that he played. So I wasn't surprised he didn't play any more than that. My only worry is this team, regardless, is going to burn out. We don't have the depth that we would like to have. So especially against Denver, if AD or Rui gets in any foul trouble, we're in trouble. So
Now,
hopefully we can find a
do
way
you
to
think we're
control
in
them.
trouble? Do you think we're in trouble because of what you're seeing in recent games, or you think we're in trouble because of coaching substitution patterns? You know what I'm saying?
Here's my thing, and I know you're gonna agree with me here. It's so easy to blame a coach on every single LeBron team. It's very easy to do it. LeBron wants things a certain way. Like I've watched those players, coaches drawing up plays, and they're walking away before he finished drawing. Like LeBron's the first one to do it. He walks away before Ham is finished drawing up the play, and he will completely disregard the play and do what he wants on the court. So if it starts with the leadership of LeBron doing things like that, players following suit, disregarding the coach, it's not surprising to me that some of those things that Darvin Ham ends up doing look bad. Especially when players come out with a different sort of effort than you're hoping to see from them. So I feel like it's almost like I feel like it's like 30% problem with the coaching, 30% problem with LeBron's leadership, and then the rest of the problem becomes on the Laker management for choosing a coach who is a coach that I don't think is a title contending coach for a team that's hoping to win a title. I think that's like a developmental coach. Like if we didn't have LeBron or AD on this team, I think Ham would be great with like D'Lo and Hachimura and with Austin Reeves and develop some of those young guys.
The original Laker roster before
Right. I think he would be
LeBron
great.
came over.
Like he'd be great in developing young guys. I think he probably would have been better than Luke was, honestly. So it's tough. It's tough to look at this and just blame the coach. Does he
Mhm.
do some things that are questionable? Yes, a lot of coaches do. Like unless you're like Greg Popovich or Spoelstra or Tom Thibodeau or some of these great coaches that make the right decision most of the time, then sure. But like look at Doc Rivers. He's been doing it for his whole career, where there's head scratchers and nobody can figure it out, and he keeps getting jobs. So I don't know. I don't want to just blame the coach. To me, that's the easiest thing. A coach's job is really difficult, and if you have a star player like LeBron's caliber who completely disregards you, I can't blame just the coach in that situation because
Well,
how
and
many
that's been
he's frustrated
that's
over.
been the knock on LeBron for the most part of his career, because we all know that a LeBron team is coached by LeBron. You know what I'm saying? And the coaches are there as just puppets, in my opinion. LeBron has never really been coached by a coach that
Aside from
actually,
Ty Lue and Spoelstra.
except who?
Ty Lue and Spoelstra, and he and Ty Lue bumped heads entirely.
I wouldn't even put Ty Lue in that category, but I'd put Spolstra. You're right, but Ty Lue is kind of second tier, not the first tier coach. But for the most part, all of LeBron's coaches have been, you know, tier threes and tier fours.
Right.
And to his credit, he's actually made their name too. He's won, but we all know LeBron's basketball IQ is superb, and so he's a player coach on the floor. He's doing all that, but the problem is the teams are built around him. Coaches are afraid to make decisions. If you realize, I'm gonna do a spinoff here just because we're talking about great coaches. You know, when it comes to LeBron playing for great coaches or well established coaches or veteran coaches, that are leaders. Look at his performances on Team USA. LeBron,
Right, but look at his performances when an alpha was ahead of him as the leader, because it was great when Kobe was there and LeBron was number two. LeBron might have thought he was number one. That whole team looked at Kobe as number one, regardless of what LeBron thought. So,
absolutely.
like,
And if
if
you
you look
ask
at the
me,
year
when he went to
before,
Miami, and when he went
right,
to Miami, Dwayne Wade is an alpha. He's not a beta.
right. But if you look at Team USA the time before Kobe got there, LeBron was on the team. Him and Tim Duncan were the leaders on the team, and they lost.
I agree.
So like what happened then? That was
Because
the same thing. And he came in there wanting things a certain way. He tried doing it when Kobe was there. If you remember, he went to Coach K and there's quotes of LeBron saying, "Don't let this mother take these shots, these bad shots. Don't let him do this. Don't let him do that." And without Kobe needing Coach K to say anything, Kobe walked into the first practice and said, "I'm going to be guarding the opposing best perimeter player every single game." Without the first practice coming, with LeBron coming out there trying to make a statement as if it was his team. And what happened? The team followed suit with Kobe, not with LeBron. So I think it depends on the situation. If he goes in there and he's number one, it's like you said with Miami, Dwayne Wade was kind of the number one there. That was his team, regardless of LeBron being there. Like that was a Dwayne Wade is a Miami Heat, and LeBron kind of followed suit and played next to him. So that's a different situation. And LeBron still wanted to get rid of Spoelstra. He wanted Pat Riley to be the coach. And Pat Riley told him, no, not letting you do this shit. Like I'm
and
not
and
putting up with it.
and you know that's dumb on LeBron's end because there's no way in hell he would have got away with what he thought he would get under Pat Riley.
Pat
Pat
Riley would have
Riley's
picked him up.
Pat Riley's old school. Pat Riley doesn't play those games.
Nope.
So at the end of the day is you know LeBron is a legend in the term of legend. He's one of the greatest to play the game. But then again, if LeBron's not the alpha, whether it's from the sidelines or on the court, he can't he's not going to be as effective as he's accustomed to being. And it'll show and it showed over the years, but at the end of the day, the Lakers continue to hire coaches, you know, and if you think about it, why would you fire Frank Vogel after you won a championship with him?
That was a horrible decision. And that was something LeBron and Westbrook wanted.
And
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 you did it to
and
appease them.
exactly, and that's the point, you know. So
Uh,
it's interesting to see how this season's going to play out because I don't think Darvin Ham is a playoff coach. I don't think he's an NBA, like you said, an NBA championship caliber coach. And the Lakers are going. I hate to say it, but the Lakers are going to go only as far as uh, LeBron takes them.
I'm going to disagree with you on that. I don't think LeBron is the key in this series. I think for the Lakers to have a chance of beating the Denver Nuggets, I think it's going to rely on the rest of that team. I think AD, D'Lo, Ruby, Reeves, and anyone from the bench, if you can get five guys every night from that team playing top tier basketball, that's going to win it. I think LeBron's going to have a lot of pressure on him just because Aaron Gordon's going to be guarding him. Aaron Gordon's actually done a really good job against LeBron every time he's faced him. He's just as big as LeBron. He's just as physical and strong as LeBron. And he's more athletic at this point since he's younger. So he has done an amazing job every time he's faced him. So to me, unless the rest of the team steps up and does what they're capable of, Lakers don't have a chance. That's my honest to goodness opinion at this point. So um, putting Lakers aside, I kind of want to go to the next game that happened. We mentioned New Orleans. We'll come back to New Orleans in a second since they have one more chance to get into the playoffs. Um, the other end of the spectrum, a team not making into the playoffs, and it kind of goes hand in hand with LeBron. It's the Warriors. They've been faced against each other for so long, and now they're just competing in play-ins. Um, what does this do to the Warriors in terms of their legacy, their future? that they just missed this playoffs and had the game that they had. Clay going 0 for 10, Chris Paul doing nothing in that game, and Steph, you know, stuck in this circumstance and knowing that you might lose some guys this summer.
This is gonna sound like a hater comment, but is this the Chris Paul curse?
I don't think so.
And
I
the
don't
reason
think that's
and the
it.
reason I say that, we all know that Chris Paul cannot get past the second round, right? We all know that in his NBA career, that's been the knock on his legacy, right? But here goes a Warriors team who had some young pieces that were able to fit in, still had one of the best, two of the best shooters the game has seen. Um, and they still had the main core of their guys. So I'm not definitely going to put it all on Chris Paul, but that's the funny point for me, is it the Chris Paul curse? But yeah, a team like the Warriors, who everybody thought, if they snuck into the playoffs, could create a lot of noise, not making it and losing in the play-in, is huge. And I think we're going to see the team go through a rebuilding process, and they're going to blow them up. Clay. There's already been rumors about Draymond going elsewhere, Clay Clay being moved, um, and Clay's performance in this last game, definitely played a big factor of why they lost. But I think the Warriors dynasty is over. These guys are not getting younger. We know that they're already on older players. So this could be the off season where we see that the team blows up and they go with um, a younger roster. The interesting part about that, if that is the case to me, is I'm one of those that believe that Steve Kerr adopted a well-oiled machine when Mark Jackson left, created the culture and created what the Warriors turned out to be, and he put the foundation for that. And Steve Kerr took it and ran with it. So I'm interested to see, can he really coach a team without, those core guys that were together for a few seasons. So that's the challenge I'd like to see.
So for me personally, this situation that the Warriors are in is a complete fail on upper management. Um, they had a shuffle in their upper management in terms of who was running the team. Mike Dunleavy Jr. is currently the general manager of this organization. And I think they absolutely dropped the ball at the trade deadline. They had an opportunity to make multiple trades to improve this roster. They believe this team because there was the core players there from the title team was capable of doing the same thing. I knew they weren't. Like I would have sold on Andrew Wiggins as soon as I could. I had said this in multiple podcasts. I saw the deterioration. I saw things weren't going well for him. I just didn't think he was the right fit anymore. I thought Kuminga was the person that should be starting every single game for that team. I think they should have made the Siakam trade. I think Siakam's timeline would have fit really well with Steph Curry. It would have allowed Draymond Green to be a backup as opposed to a starter. So for me, this situation, and also the fact that they let DiVincenzo walk this summer, they didn't want to pay him. I think that was a huge mistake for that team. I think that would have been another guy who would have filled in as a starter ahead of Clay. So for me, this is a complete fail on the management's part. It's a complete fail when you have a player who's still capable of leading a team to a title, and you are stuck between rebuilding with Kuminga, with Moody, with Jackson Davis, and you're playing those games with the legacies of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. And right now, Klay and Draymond, they're I think they're subs at this point. They're really good reserves off the bench. I don't think they're starters anymore. If you had an
I,
opportunity to improve the starting lineup, you should have done it. So for me, epic fail by management.
I don't disagree with you at all. And when you talk about management, that's a point that, you know, I don't recall if we uh touched on it in early episodes, or I was speaking to somebody else. But Bob Myers played a big factor in building that Warriors dynasty. And for him to jump ship, either he saw the writing on the wall and there's some more internal, you know, things, whether it's from the owners or the players themselves, where he felt like he wants to jump ship before this downfall that we're seeing takes place. But definitely management plays a big factor here and where the Warriors season ended, because that was very abrupt the way Bob Myers left.
It was abrupt. It was an interesting decision on his part. It's like you said, he probably saw writing on the wall, or he looked at it as something else was going inside internally that he just didn't like and didn't want to be a part of. So, yeah, again, to me, it's a management fail. As great as they've been making the wrong decisions for last couple of years since the title. You know, if you remember the year the Lakers won in 2009, they had Trevor Ariza, who was playing amazing, and he fit
They
so
turned
well with the team, and they basically let him go so they could sign Ron Artest. And usually title teams, they try and keep their core together. And Trevor is a really good friend with Kobe Bryant. They're like brothers. So for you to decide to let a guy like Trevor go, who was at that time a really good defensive wing in the NBA and was still sought for by other teams as a great defensive when he was traded multiple times after that because teams wanted him, and take a chance on someone like Ron Artest. Some people are kind of like head scratch it because Ron Artest kind of, he could be volatile at times, and
Oh, absolutely.
unreliable. So the fact the team did it and their reasoning for doing it is sometimes you need to freshen things up to make sure that that fire stays alive. And Ron
Yeah,
wanted
yeah,
that.
but you can't
So
you can't do that coming off of winning a championship. Like for example, let's
the
look at you.
Lakers did it though. Lakers did it every season they won. Every season they came back with somebody new who needed that title as well.
I got you. And that kind of brings the fire, right? Bringing that one person that needs an edge. But, if you take that 2009 scenario that you brought up, Lakers win, they beat Orlando, Ariza leaves, they bring in Ron Artest, they lose to Boston, they come back and beat Boston
They beat Boston with that year. So they
with
won in
Artest.
2000 with Artest, yeah.
Yeah, but
So
that's
they
what I'm
lost the
saying.
first season with Luke Walton. They get Trevor Ariza. They win that season against Orlando. The very next season, they let Trevor go and they sign Ron Artest and they beat Boston. They went to 3 straight finals.
Correct. But did Ariza played in two?
Ariza played in one, I believe. They lost the first one with Luke Walton as the starting shooting guard, small forward. The second one they get Ariza and they win with Ariza as small forward. I believe that
Thought
was
I thought
2008.
that was
2000,
that was against Orlando,
no, the
right?
first one they lost to Boston. Second one they won against um Orlando, and the third one they beat Boston.
I thought they played Boston back to back. I
Nope,
could be
nope,
mistaken.
you're mistaken.
Wait,
They lost to
I thought
Boston.
Boston.
They went
I
to three
thought
straight finals.
the Lakers went to three straight finals. That I know, but
And
I
they
thought
lost the first one, the next two.
I thought Boston is the one that went back to back.
No, Boston lost the second year.
That's what that was, huh?
Because I think LeBron beat Boston in the second round, and then Orlando beat LeBron in the semifinals.
Oh, you're okay. You're right there. Yeah, I had him switched up. You're right. So they lost to Boston. They brought in Trevor. They beat Orlando. Then they let Trevor walk. Then they brought in Ron Artest and they beat Boston. You're right. I had that first 2 years swapped.
Yeah.
I thought I thought Ariza was on the Boston loss. But yeah,
So
I mean, a lot of teams do that, and it's there is some advantages to doing that, like you said, but it's it's less likely to be positive than it is
Yeah,
positive reward outcome for sure.
it'll be a fun off season for them. Moving on though, we've got another playing game for the eighth seed now. It's going to be Pelicans versus Kings. And on one of the last plays of that game against the Lakers, Zion actually had an injury. I think it was a calf strain, and he probably miss this game against Sacramento. To be honest with you, even if Zion had played, I kind of had this feeling that I was gonna, root for the Kings in that game. I kind of felt like they're gonna pull this one off. The Pelicans have normally done really well against the Kings, especially because they have Herb Jones, who has really bothered De'Aaron Fox. But I felt like once the playoffs start, it'll be a little different situation and that the Kings would pull this off. I think now the Kings should win this game. I think they're favored if LeBron's not playing. What do you think about this matchup?
Well, definitely. I mean, definitely. If Zion does, Zion had a big game against the Lakers, and there's two ways to look at that. Can he consist? If Zion is healthy enough to play per se, is he going to be consistent enough to put on the same performance against, the Kings that he did against the Lakers? But with him pending, is he ruled out officially?
From what I read, he's not playing in that next game. I think he
So
has
that's definitely
concussion,
that's
so
definitely that's definitely a big loss for the Pelicans. There. However, I don't. I think from a matchup standpoint, it might benefit the Pelicans with him not being there because now you're talking about they match up better, both teams. Um, and somebody from the Pelicans can step up in his place. I think that's probably going to be an interesting matchup.
I'm
Um,
actually more interested. I think both teams match up pretty well with OKC. And I think that's gonna be a really fun first round, regardless of which team moves on, and especially if Zion's healthy. I think that's gonna be a really fun first round game. It's gonna be if it's the Kings, it's gonna be fast paced. It's gonna be a lot of scoring. It's gonna be fun to watch. If it is the Pelicans and Zion's healthy, I feel like OKC doesn't really have that muscle to bang with him, and I feel like Zion could have another series where he plays like he did against the Lakers. So
well, and if you look at their season, their season matchups, the Pelicans own the Kings. They went 5-0 against them.
Herb
Now,
Jones, Herb
uh,
Jones defense, yeah. That's why I
yeah,
kind of felt
so,
like Sacramento was due for a win, and I felt like they might get this one. But yeah, Herb Jones' defense on De'Aaron Fox is phenomenal. Herb Jones is elite defender. He's not talked about enough, honestly.
but definitely interested to see you know who steps up for because Zion. I'm just looking at his stats right here. The last game against the Pelicans, he had 26 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds. Right, you know, um, the game before that, Zion also 25 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. I know the first game I saw it, he had 36 points on them. So it's obvious that they don't have an answer. He had one bad game against them, played 27 minutes. He had
Poor
the 10th
Harrison
one on.
Barnes.
You said what?
Poor Harrison Barnes. I mean, 5 years ago he was a shooting guard, small forward, and today he's guarding Zion.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But just looking at the 5 matchups this season, they went 5-0. Zion averaged about 30 in 3 of them.
Yeah.
And then one he didn't play, and then one he only had 10. So they've obviously been able to win without Zion. So I don't know how much of a loss that would affect them, but you're right. If I've lost to a team five times in one season, I'm either due for a win or I'm going to find a way to make up those 5 losses.
So we mentioned how Zion got hurt. I want to jump to the East today. We just had 2 games today, and I'm pretty bummed about this one. My boy Jimmy Buckets went down with an injury in the fourth quarter. They say it is his MCL. He might be done for the season. I know you are too. We're both rooting for the Heat. The Heat are a fun team for me to watch, especially playoff time. That's a huge blow. I think the Heat were up by 20 points at one point, and yeah, Philly came back and won the game. Embiid went off in the fourth, and there was no answer for him. So really bummed to see that happen to Jimmy Butler. I think he's probably done for the season at this point. But it's great for Philly. I think Philly has a chance to do really well in these playoffs. So yeah, what do you think about that game?
Definitely losing Jimmy Butler. He's the motor of that team. They go as far as he can take them. He's the heart and of that team. His losing him is going to be a huge loss for that team. But at the end of the day, uh, I still think they have a chance to making it into the playoffs because I don't know if they'll be able to beat the Bulls. I mean, if the Bulls will be able to beat them. Bulls have been really struggling and very, very inconsistent. Miami is well coached. We're both big fans of Spoelstra here. However, again, losing Jimmy Butler is a big, big, big loss for a team like Miami, especially. I'm trying to pull something up here real quick. But yeah, Jimmy, you're losing 25-5. You know what I'm saying?
You're losing somebody who's a leader in the playoffs and turns it
Yeah,
up a notch. And regardless of what his numbers are during the season, he changes the entire team come playoffs. The intensity changes, the defense changes. They know what they need to do. It becomes winning basketball. So like when
and defensive tenacity.
yeah,
He sets the tone on the defensive end. I mean,
yeah.
it's interesting to see who's going to step up from Miami. I mean, you know, I'm just looking at their at their current roster right now. Um, I'm not. I still think that they have guys there that can step up.
Step up, yes, but they're probably going to be playing Boston in the first round, and I don't know if it's. I just don't think it's plausible without Jimmy. If Jimmy's hurt, at that point, I just don't see the team capable of winning it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I hope something happens and it's just a strain or a sprain, and MRIs come back clean tomorrow and he's able to play. Again, I love Embiid too. It's like I'm not like angry. I'm happy for Embiid, but I would have loved to see a healthy Jimmy buckets against the Boston Celtics. So
For sure.
hopefully we get some good news tomorrow. I hope it's nothing more than a strain or a sprain and he's able to somehow play at least most of the series. But yeah, without him, they aren't winning a title. I think with him, they are
Oh,
the
definitely,
in the East.
definitely not winning a title
Yeah.
without him. But you know, they are still somebody you got to worry about, in my
Mhm.
opinion. Like I said, what makes this Miami team a little different than previous Miami teams, and a lot of people may not give this man the recognition he deserves, but um, and I'm looking right now. Is there something wrong with Terry Rozier?
Yeah, he did not play tonight. He will be available for the rest of the playoffs. However, he was ruled out of tonight.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah,
I
so they didn't have a guy like that. They had a Kyle Lowry in the past. Terry's younger, quicker, more tenacious, can can easily score 30. So I think that tenacity that Jimmy Butler used to bring, you know, you're not he's not going to bring the same tenacity, but I think he can make up some of the difference. Not 100%, maybe not even 50%, but they're not going to go flatline. And I think what's his name? Jaime Jaquez could potentially step up in this playoff round and really prove that he's a steal of the draft.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. Again, a lot rides on Jimmy, and if they don't have him, I don't think they have a chance of beating the Celtics. They do have to play the Bulls, who also beat the Atlanta Hawks tonight. Atlanta Hawks, man, they're another team. You know, they're a little bit of disappointment with them. They made a lot of moves, you know, to build around Trey Young and DeJounte Murray. They also didn't make a lot of moves. I believe they should have. So they're another team that's just kind of floating along right now, in my opinion. They need to make some changes. Um, so I'm not surprised they're out of the playoffs this season. They're a team that went to the Eastern Conference Finals, I think, what was it, 2 seasons ago? And you know, now they're out of the playoffs entirely. So definitely some retooling there. Chicago is the one I'm a little surprised with. They have been dealing with adversity all season long, especially with Zach LaVine being out and all the drama that went on with him asking for a trade. They have done a good job and really battled their way back into things and stayed competitive. Their ownership believes that they had a good team that could compete if they were healthy. So they didn't make any trades and they want to keep their guys and build on it for next year and see what a healthy team around Lonzo Ball and Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan can do. So it'll be interesting to see what they do this summer. I don't know if you've heard, but Lonzo Ball is starting to play basketball again, which I'm super happy for. Uh, yeah,
Definitely happy for him as well. But you, I want to go back a little bit and talk about the Hawks here. I think it's time the Hawks blow up that team.
yeah.
Um, they they
I don't know if
haven't.
they have to blow it up though, Mar. I think they just have to make a decision. I think you either have to play with DeJounte or you have to play with Trey and move forward and put a better fit. They play well together, but that's not a team that's going to move
Win.
forward together. So uh,
That's not a championship caliber team or a team that's going to have a deep run into the playoffs. Not with the team, not with the teams around them.
right.
And the reason I say blow up that team is because we focus so much on Trey and DeJounte Murray, right? Those being the two big names on that team. But if you look at their roster, and I know we talked about that previously, they're they're made up of way too many role players. They don't have that third musketeer. You know what I'm saying? And so my thing is this is you're going to have to blow up the roster in a sense is you can't just pick Trey or the Junte and think that the
Wait,
rest of the
who?
what are you talking about? Murray.
How'd you say his first name?
How do you say his first name before you tell him?
DeJounte. DeJounte
DeJounte Murray.
Murray.
You know, I've been talking to
Dude.
a lot of Europeans, bro, over the
Oh,
last
man.
five five months. But
Well, even
DeJounte
if you're
Murray,
talking, hold on, if you're talking Europeans, they would say yeah, DeJounte. So like
DeJounte. That's what I said. DeJounte.
you
Because
say you said DeJounte.
I did because it's DeJounte and I was thinking DeJounte and I said DeJounte. Because but the
I'm
first time I
cutting
mentioned
that
his
up.
name, I
That's
said
not an
DeJounte
Instagram
Murray.
here.
No, you're right. You're right. I butchered that one, but you can't just trade one of them and not make any changes to the role players around them.
No,
And
I agree with that. But like if you remember, they traded the number three they had. They had John Collins, who was a terrible defensive player. However, he was a very good offensive player. They
but do you
lost
really
a lot of
consider
offense.
him? Do you really consider him the three we're talking about to
No,
be
but
a championship contending team
no. But what
or
I was
deep
going to say
playoff run?
was they traded John Collins for nothing. They literally just shed the contract. They got rid of it. They got like nothing in that deal. So for them to trade him for nothing and not recoup something in the process of trading him, that was the fail that I'm referring to. If they're going to legitimately compete and trade one of those guys, they need to get like as much of a haul as they possibly can back for them. You know, they gave up a lot for DeJounte Murray too. They gave up a lot of draft picks that went to the Spurs. So if they're going to trade one of them, make sure you get a haul coming back for you. So that's my only thing with in regards to that team. Um,
And that goes back to the management. Not all these teams have great managements, and we just talked about one of the greatest dynasties and what their management is doing. Um, But going back to the Bulls, you know, like you said, the Bulls felt that they had a team that can compete, and I think they've been one of the most inconsistent teams out there. I think it's time for a new coach. Billy
I
Donovan is
mean,
not.
so like this is my only thing. That team before Lonzo got hurt was, I believe, like the third or fourth seed in the East. They were playing amazing basketball, especially on the defensive end. Lonzo Ball was, I mean, he was absolutely destroying teams. He was picking them apart. And that trio, I'm sorry, not even the trio, that starting lineup of Vucevic, of Patrick Williams, of DeMar DeRozan, and Zach LaVine and Lonzo Ball was playing elite basketball. So for you to have a player like that, who's like your core go-to guy, a core piece like Lonzo, have the injury that he has and he was done, Omar. He hasn't played basketball in 2 years. For something like that, and then for his contract to eat away that much salary and you have to just sit there and just take it. I don't want to blame the coach because the coach is in a situation, he's coaching to the best of his abilities with what he has. And if his best ability, if the best that he has is Alex Caruso and Kobe White, and he still managed to take a bottom seed team and bring them into the playoffs, he's doing something right. I don't think it's a coaching issue. And my whole thing is like, if we can replace him for? Like you're gonna just bring some other young upstart guy who Darvin Ham, who probably doesn't have the experience he needs to coach these guys, and he's gonna make his blunders, and everyone's gonna hate him for it, and you're gonna be searching again. And at that point, your window of opportunity is kind of gone with those guys. So for me, I don't know if it's a Billy Donovan issue. I think it was just maybe you waited too long to make a move. You're hoping Lonzo would come back. Maybe you made some poor management decisions. But if you're going to sit and wait on it, okay, let's see what happens. But that's a gamble. And if Lonzo comes back and it still doesn't work, then yeah, then it's a fail. And now you got to retool and restart and go forward. But it's tough with a situation like injuries change everything, man. How many players like that? Remember Grant Hill when he was done? Like, what does that franchise do at that point? What did the Orlando Magic do when you paired Grant Hill and Tracy McGrady and Grant Hill's done?
I agree with you. I understand where you're coming from on that, and the reason I bring that up is simply because at the end of the day, we have championship, just like you have championship caliber rosters, and you have championship caliber coaches. And I'm not saying he's not a good coach, but then again, he won at the college level, right? He was a successful championship winning coach at the college level. It does not necessarily 100% translate to the NBA. And
Wasn't he the coach of the OKC Thunder when they went to the finals?
double check for you, but I thought that was Scott Brooks.
Oh, well, I don't remember. I think it was Billy Donovan, and then he got fired, and Scott Brooks came in and replaced him.
Let me double check.
Look at that.
I could stand corrected. The Thunder. Uh, he was coach of the he was the NBA co-coach of the year in 2020, and that was his last year with the Thunder or the first year with the Bulls. I don't know where that falls in that category. Let me see. Uh, where is it? Yeah, see, no, because it says on September 20th, it was announced that Don would not be returning to the team as the two sides failed to agree on a contract extension over his 5 seasons in Oklahoma City. Donovan went to whatever, blah, 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 243, 150, while making the postseason each year, advancing past the first round just once.
Okay, so it was Scott Brooks, so I'm wrong.
Yeah. So bottom line is, again, yes, he was a successful college coach, but is he a championship caliber coach in the NBA? And you know, that's the question mark there for me.
Yeah, again, for me, it all comes down to who do you replace him with? Like, if you think there's some young upstart guy that you could build with, sure, but then you're gonna rebuild your team too. Like I feel like that team is playing decently well. They're playing for him. You know, they're playing hard for him. So if the team believes that Lonzo Ball is coming back and they'll be back to a competitive team, then it doesn't make sense to me to replace the coach. If they feel like, oh man, Lonzo's coming back, but it's going to be rough, and you know, DeMar DeRozan is leaving this summer, and we're trying to trade Zach LaVine, let's restart the team and you know rebuild and go move forward and get a different coach that we could kind of build forward with a young coach that can kind of grow with the young guys. I would understand that. That's fine. That's something workable, but with the direction they're looking to go, it to me it doesn't make sense to fire him.
I,
I'm against firing coaches, like especially due to circumstances. I know teams do it all the time, and I think most of the time they regret doing it. I think you have to look for a situation where a coach is failing to make the change. And I
Mhm.
don't think he's failing. I think a circumstance is what has affected him.
I get where you're coming from. It's interesting. We got 2 games left to see who takes the final 2 spots in the NBA playoffs, and hopefully some of these injuries are not as bad and these guys can actually play. But definitely, it's going to be an interesting offseason, and it's going to be a fun playoff.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Regardless of the play in benefiting. Yeah, you know, LeBron and his legacy and things like that. And I'm sure Mike is, you know, using this as another reason to put him further up the list, put Kobe further down the list, you know. But I don't think
In,
Kobe was in situations when he was 8 or 9. He was just always in situations where he was at least sixth, you know, or seventh.
or not in.
Yeah, or not in, or first, and then not in. So yeah. But yeah, I think we'll end things there. You know, I don't want to get too deep into the other matchups until we know who they are. And next episode, when Mike's back, we'll kind of dive into the rest of the playoffs and how things are going, and we'll really analyze some of these matchups moving forward. So, anything you want to add, Omar?
Nope. Interested to see who makes which teams make it to the final seeds and try to watch some playoff games.
Yeah. All right, bud. I
Uh,
will I will waive you calling anybody since I know nobody's answering.
yeah, I've been MIA for 5 weeks, so probably a lot of people don't even know I'm back.
Yeah. Well, I
So
mean, that might be a reason for them to answer the phone at this point, but you know, we'll save it for the next episode. Just come prepared.
I will.
All
All
right.
right.
All right, Omar. Have
Uh,
a good night.
Good night.